option for you. I'll repeat that. There should also be a closed caption option for you to help with any accessibility needs. So again, this is such an exciting day for us. And as Mara said, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome everyone to our second Youth Engaged Research Symposium. So CREATE stands for Community-Based Research on Equity, Activism, and Transformative Education. We're in our 4th year of operation here at the University of Michigan's Marsall Family School of Education. At CREATE, we are dedicated to uniting researchers at the university and community members and researchers in conducting and supporting research that advances educational justice and racial justice. Our team does this by conducting community-engaged research ourselves, by fostering community research partnerships, and offering programming like today's event. Of course, children and youth are cherished parts of our communities, so this symposium is an opportunity for us to come together and learn with and from them. Indeed, at the heart of CREATE's mission is a deep belief in the brilliance of children and youth, and a knowing that all students deserve schools and broader educational opportunities that are high quality, equitable, nurturing, culturally relevant, and life-affirming. We know that universities are typically places where the knowledge, expertise, and innovations of seasoned adult professionals are exalted. Today, however, we intentionally disrupt that, and our wonderful presenters will remind us that children and youth are experts on their own life and educational experiences, and they too, of course, bring wisdom and skills that can strengthen the value and impact of educational research. This morning, we are honored to have research teams that feature brilliant youth researchers and recently, formerly youth researchers from Detroit, Michigan, Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, and a team connecting with us from across the world in Kenya. For those of you able to join us this afternoon, we will also be welcoming a dynamic Youth Engaged Research team from Lansing, Michigan in person, and hearing great presentations from graduate students here at the university. Those students are partnering with youth researchers. For now, it is a pleasure to welcome the youth researchers and our research teams online with us today, along with their adult mentors. I want to express extra gratitude for the generosity of our Michigan-based youth who are taking precious time out of their spring break. Sorry, I hear a little bit of feedback. I'll start again. I want to express extra gratitude for the generosity of our Michigan-based youth who are taking precious time out of their spring break to be part of the symposium. This includes youth from the Indigenous Education Youth Collective and youth from the Digital Tech Workshop. I also want to express extra gratitude to the Kakuma Youth Research Group for taking time out of their evening, given the vast time difference between the US and Kenya, and also for being so flexible and patient with our US-based technologies. Finally, I want to acknowledge that wherever those of us in the US are zooming in from, we are seated on Indigenous land, including those here at the University of Michigan. The university's accumulation of wealth, resources, and prestige cannot be divorced from the injustices of settler colonialism and the exploited labor of Indigenous peoples and people of African descent. Realizing the historical and continued promise of the University of Michigan to significantly increase educational access to Indigenous students remains a crucial need. Beyond this acknowledgement, however, I am also mindful of the importance of university members and others in influential positions doing all that we can to be reparative and justice-seeking through our actions. This is crucial in combating anti-indigeneity and anti-racism in the US and worldwide. This is also needed given the wars, famine, and contemporary attempts at genocide on multiple continents that touch many of our hearts and many of our lives. Today, on a very inspiring note, CREATE is honored to gather research teams that are anchored in justice-driven commitments and also rooted in care, love, and critical hope. Of course, we all need so much of that today too. My hope is that the symposium will offer all of us increased energy, insight, and strategies for crafting and using research in our community connections as tools for justice and critical care. So now I am thrilled to link it back to Mara, who will introduce the Youth Engaged research teams that we are so happy to be in community with today and launch what we know will be great conversations and interaction. Thanks again.
Thank you, Camille. Thank you, everyone, again, for being here. I want to let you know each of our teams will share, and after each of their presentations, we'll give an opportunity for a question from the audience. So please use the Q&A as you see fit during their sharing. You don't have to just use it for questions either. Please use it for affirmations or anything else that you're thinking about so that we can partake in that together. And I'm now going to turn to introduce our teams. First, we have the Kakuma Youth Research Group. The Kakuma Youth Research Group is a coalition of refugees and young people living in Kakuma Refugee Camp and urban areas in Kenya. We are joined by Ali Adan Abdi, Amolo Mehdi Christine, Abdurazik Ali Abuanga, and Alinga Eklapatan John, who I think might have just come on, who are from Kenya, Sudan, South Sudan, and Somalia. Founding members created the Kakuma Youth Research Group while attending secondary school in Kakuma, learning and practicing research skills in the context of a school club facilitated by Michelle Bellino, Associate Professor at the University of Michigan School of Education. The Kakuma Youth Research Group encourages school leavers to see themselves as lifelong learners, where education is ongoing even after completing secondary school. Their efforts seek to support and build local youth's capacity while disseminating knowledge and skills more equitably. They are grateful for their families and communities and the many friends and teachers at Kakuma Refugee Secondary School who have supported their learning. We also are joined today by the Indigenous Education Youth Collective. The Indigenous Education Youth Collective is a youth participatory action research project led by and for Anishinaabe scholars, community members, and students, and they are joining us today from Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. Piper is an 8th grader at JKL, a proud researcher and loves her Anishinaabe culture. Rowan is a 7th grader at JKL, a Girl Scout and loves crafting. And Molly is a 7th grader at JKL, a proud musician and a member of the JKL Gifted and Talented Program for Performing Arts. Their partners are Jennifer Dale Burton, an Anishinaabe elder who serves as editor of Win Awenin Nistatung, the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians community newspaper, and is a member of the tribe's conservation and food sovereignty committees. Dr. Chloe Cannon, a member of the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians, University of Michigan alum, and assistant professor of education at Lake Superior State University, and Dr. Jeremy Wright Kim, assistant professor in the Center for the Study of Higher and Post-Secondary Education at the University of Michigan. They have joined us today to share the Indigenous-led research they have developed in community with one another. And finally, we have the Digital Tech Workshop. The Digital Tech Workshop is a student-led after-school makerspace in Detroit. They have come to share today about the joyful after-school makerspace they co-created together. During this inaugural year in their lab, students designed a space to express their full selves as they explored VR, 3D printing, robotics, music production, digital art, and more. Together, members engaged in critical inquiry about the role technology plays in their lives, their school, and their city, now and in the future. Presenters Naomi Hightower, Amaris Johnson Riley, Amari O'Neill, and Shay Thomas are high school students at the school at Marygrove, whose presence and leadership shaped the makerspace and the activity within it. Their partner, Parker Miles, is a doctoral candidate and very soon to be doctor. Defense coming up soon, look out for it, in educational studies at the University of Michigan, studying the literacy practices Black youth leverage as they imagine and use digital technologies. We are so delighted to have all of you with us today. I am now going to turn it over to the Kakuma team. Again, folks who are here in the audience, I invite you to drop questions and thoughts and comments in the Q&A as you see fit. So I will turn it over to you all.
Great. Thank you, Mara, for that great introduction. Let me make sure you're seeing the slides. Give me a thumbs up. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Michelle Bellino. I'm presenting today with Ali, Amolo, Abdurazik, and Alinga, 4 members of the Kakuma Youth Research Group. And we want to start by thanking the CREATE team for inviting us here to share some of this work. As we thought about what to present to you today, we wanted an opportunity to reflect on the work that we did collectively, as well as how each of us was sort of positioned within the work as individuals. And for the youth co-researchers in particular, a chance to reflect on what they learned and what they got out of the work, looking back 7 years after that work ended. And on that note, all of the images that you see, some of which include me, were taken by the research team. Just trying to figure out how to get rid of all these pictures that are in my way of my slides. Okay, we'll see. So we're going to be reflecting on a youth participatory action research collaboration that we carried out in Kakuma refugee camp in Kenya. The blue state you see here is Kenya, and the yellow states surrounding Kenya are the countries of origin of the majority of young people who seek asylum in Kenya. Many of the refugees living in Kenya are hosted in camps like Kakuma Refugee Camp. And you can see here, the population is very high. And within that overall population, there's a very large number of school-aged young people. Meanwhile, Kakuma is located in a remote and arid area in northwestern Kenya where Turkana people live. This host community is traditionally nomadic pastoralist community, and they are historically marginalized population in Kenya. So Alinga, who you see here standing in front of his manyata, his family home, is a Kenyan national, but he actually attended school in the refugee camp to access education. So I wanted to describe Kakuma through the eyes and words of a refugee young person to sort of get us grounded. So in the context of one of our team conversations, Abdurazik asked the group, well, how would you describe Kakuma to someone who doesn't know Kakuma? And after hesitating for a moment, Ibrahim said, I would describe Kakuma as a place, a temporary place where someone doesn't know about his future. You are not sure whether you will get out of this place. And Ali, just the other day while we were preparing for today, you described Kakuma as an open prison. So every refugee camp is different, but these are some of the common features of settings of encampments. So by design, camps are not intended to be democratic places or a civil society, or even, as some might argue, not even designed to be a community. So I really wanted to highlight this idea of enforced dependency, the idea that refugees are prevented from developing their full potential because of forced dependency by nature of the structural conditions which impede their spatial movement and hinder access to legal employment and their capacity to develop their full potential. So this research began in 2015, and it spanned 3 years with some smaller post chapters to extend this work. I designed the study as a combination of ethnographic methods and a youth participatory action research approach in collaboration with students and one teacher at a secondary school in Kakuma, which is where I met Ali, Amolo, Abdurazik, and Alinga. These students were all in Form 3, the US equivalent of 11th grade when we began. And the idea was that ethnographically, I would be able to document their everyday experiences in their final years in school and as they transitioned out, and that those would also be opportunities for us to build a relationship together. At the same time, I wanted to facilitate a YPAR collaboration in hopes that as we identified challenges, which we knew would be inevitable in this context, we could think together about how to use research to advocate for educational improvements that were meaningful and relevant to them. So there are many ways to approach YPAR, and I look forward to hearing from other teams how you've sort of approached your youth engaged research and YPAR collaborations. But among the guiding principles that we held really centrally, the research process is a collaboration with shared decision making. There's an underlying assumption that the people embedded in the context under study are the experts, so that this experiential knowledge is treated as expertise. And it also presumably involves this move from conceptualizing to collecting and analyzing data into collective mobilization. So a chance to think about collective action, which in any context involves asking this really essential civic question of what should we do? But especially in the refugee context, this also involved circumscribing that action-oriented question into a more strategic one, asking what can we do? So early on, one of the shared interests that you've identified was the idea of non-material support around young people's educational opportunities in Kakuma. And this spanned academic and social supports, particularly around how these supports played a role in access, motivation, experiences, and persistence in school. Together, we posed these research questions, made decisions about design, collected and analyzed data together. Our main source of data was 30 interviews with community members, mostly youth in Kakuma, and these were carried out by youth co-researchers. And there was also sort of a meta question operating here, more from my perspective as an adult outsider, a white US citizen, non-refugee, facilitating this work, right? Asking, how can we support young people in YPAR, which is meant to be this transformative civic learning experience, in a context like this, where there are such rigid constraints on young people's agency and their capacity to make claims, given their legal status as non-citizens. And I do think that question was operating for youth co-researchers as well, but from a different vantage point. So the most salient findings from our interviews were that almost everyone wanted to continue their education after secondary school. So it was a finding that so many youth across so many different identity groups shared these aspirations for post-secondary education or continued learning opportunities. And recognizing this shared aspiration drew attention to the enormous gap between aspirations and the opportunity structure, the opportunities to fulfill these aspirations. So at the time of the study, it was 1% of refugees globally who were able to access tertiary education. That number has since grown to 7%. Although I think when we look within particular contexts like Kakuma, that number is still very close to 1%. So after secondary school, rather than accessing these opportunities that many young people aspired to, we found that most high school graduates or school leavers, as they're called in this context, sit in the community with nothing to do. And this brings us to our third main finding. As we dug into an analysis of the opportunity structure, we realized that many youth who completed school lacked clear information about the opportunities that were available to them. So coming back to our research questions, these social and academic supports were circulating, but they were often circulating as abstract advice in the absence of important contextual information about what opportunities existed and how to access them. And also often circulating in inequitable ways, so that those with more wealth and status were more readily accessing information about opportunities and sometimes keeping or withholding that information from those with less wealth and status. So we began articulating this idea of information gaps that existed in the camp. Here's Kareem defining the term for us. So he explains that information gaps are when you don't understand how something is happening or why it is that way. You need to set your mind, but you do not know which are the right questions to ask. And then he added, and maybe you do not know you are a person who can ask these questions. And I think this definition shows that there are multiple dimensions to the ways that information acts as a barrier, which was sort of part of what we unpacked together. So the scope and substance of the questions aimed at understanding the context and how educational opportunities are distributed and accessed, but also this dispositional piece, recognizing who has the power and who has the agency to ask questions and to demand answers. And both of these are important dimensions of youth civic agency, particularly for a refugee or a marginalized national in this context where there are multiple overlapping, ambiguous, and sometimes conflicting duty bearers who are accountable for rights and services. So in moving towards collective mobilization, we set out to close information gaps by compiling resources and opportunities. And we then carried out another layer of research as we went out and talked to all the agencies in the camp to understand how these opportunities worked and created a webpage where we housed this information. We developed a Facebook community page where we listed these resources and have since moved between Facebook and a standalone webpage where you can read more about our research team, including accessing the article we co-authored that holds the main ideas from our work together. So with that, I will pass it to youth co-researchers to reflect a bit on our process as a team and what they individually got out of it, keeping in mind that our work ended about 7 years ago. I offered some reflection questions to get us thinking, and you'll hear Alinga actually name each of those questions. So unfortunately, due to connectivity challenges, power outages, insufficient bandwidth, and all of these challenges compounded by heavy rains in the last few days in East Africa, we did not want to risk not being able to hear Ali, Amolo, Abdurazik, and Alinga. And you may notice that some of their faces are coming in and out of the Zoom call, even as we have begun this presentation. So they have pre-recorded some of their reflections, which I'll share with you now.
I'm Amolo Mary Christine. I was among the co-researchers team that took place in 2015 in KRS. So I would just like to focus on one main theme, that is how unique is these studies from other studies. First, I would like to say that this study is unique in a way that the same participants, like we are the same people doing the research of our own challenges, and we're also coming up with our own solutions. Also, it's unique because in a way that we are able to learn, like it's a two-way benefit. Like you are able to identify the problems, and also you are able to learn at the same time. Like we are able to learn the research skills, like probing skills, like the ethics and other things that we were able to learn at that time. And also it is also like in a unique way, like no one like was actually supervising us directly because it's a free-centered learning. Like we were learning on our own. And also, let's say it's transparent and friendly because most of us, we could not actually fear hiring out our own challenges because we feel we are like a peer, like a group of same people facing the same challenges. So we were able to give out the problems and the challenges by ourselves because we understand we are the same people who are having the problems and we need to give mitigations to those challenges.
Wonderful. I'm going to turn it over to Ali.
Hello, good morning. I am Ali Alan Abdi, a member of the national team. I was a teacher at Kakuma Refugee Secondary School when we all began this research. This research was set the refugee beliefs because it was not easy for the refugee youth to carry out a research of this magnitude at the global level. It was unheard of, first of its kind in the camp, despite all the challenges, differences of background, difference of tribe, we all come together to do this research, which is a tool of inspiration to the refugees at large. It makes the refugees solve their own issue. I'm really thankful to the team, especially Madam Michelle, who brought the refugee potential to at the global level. Thank you all.
So this is my presentation. I remember you sent 4 questions, and the first question was that, what was it like for you to be a youth co-researcher in youth participatory action result study? So the answer is, it makes my fellow youth to like and to love research and also to learn the method of studying research in the ground. And the second question was that what was the different about how we work together than other opportunities for work and learning there than you have had. It helped me to boost my studies as a researcher, that's the first point. Also, to update my CV. Thirdly, the researchers broad sharing of ideas concerning a certain project and also bring friendship among ourselves and cooperation. The third question was that, what is the most important things you learned in our time together? I have learned friendship and cooperation. I have learned teamwork. The fourth question was, what was the biggest challenge during our collaboration? So the first challenge that we have faced as team, distance was the biggest matter. Lack of motivation, especially eating, especially food was the problem, water, and also transportation.
I'm on a very Christy.
Okay. Unfortunately, Abdurazik also recorded, but the audio was very poor. So I want to convey just one additional detail that Abdurazik shared, which was that he feels that some of the skills and insights we learned together as a team helped him to get a job as a teacher in a Kenyan school and helped him to be a better teacher because he had a deeper understanding of his students' challenges. So I will end here and making some time for questions, and we can maybe try out some of the audio for youth researchers who are here with us.
Thank you so much. I am going to leave a moment again. If someone has a question that they would like to drop in the Q&A, or a comment, a thought, something that's coming up for you. And we can share it also. Amolo, Ali, and Abdurazik, if you want to use the chat to type responses, if that's easier for you, you certainly are welcome to. Let me see. So the question that's come up here, one is, someone says, love the work. YPAR is hard work. And their question is, if you could do this work again or go back in time, what would you do differently?
Ooh, I love that question. I know I have ideas, but Abdurazik and Ali, do you want to test your audio and just see if you want to start and then I can add? And it's okay if you feel like you don't want to risk it.
Start for us, Parav.
Okay, I think actually this was something one of you had mentioned in our practice round, but I think it didn't make it into the recordings, but the sort of starting and stopping that we had to navigate, because I designed this wanting to do this 3-year span, really wanting to see what were young people's opportunities after completing secondary school, and really like anticipating the challenges that I knew were there and that I think young people I got to see in real time, including our youth research team, got to see for themselves the challenges even after they had interviewed people. So they first encountered these challenges as data amongst their participants in the community, and then they encountered these same challenges themselves as school leavers. And I think that is one of the tensions that Amolo is talking about, with sort of having to identify and design solutions to the very same challenges that they're facing. So I think that I love that we got to have that big swath of time, and I think it helped us also develop deeper relationships and ask more interesting questions, possibly offer more contextualized conclusions. or recommendations, I should say. But I think it was also really challenging because I kept coming and going. I invited Ali as a teacher in to help facilitate in between to give us more continuity and sustainability. But I think it was really difficult to navigate those starts and stops and to push the work forward, especially during their final year of high school, which was a very high stakes year for everybody. They wanted to succeed on this big national exam so that they could access those post-secondary opportunities that were so precious to them. And I had to really sort of take my cues from the youth co-researchers about where their priorities were in life. And I think also Alinga's comments about the material challenges, those, kept coming in. And so having to be responsive to that. So Ali, Abdurazik, do you want to add anything?
I think you have summarized the point that I wanted to say exactly. Yeah, the more of solving the challenges than the collecting the data.
Can I add something?
Molo's here. Okay, wonderful.
Yes. And Amolo, I don't know if you're able to, it's okay if not, if you can't turn your camera on. But because there's the video is not on, it won't let me spotlight you here. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Yeah. Sure. So
right.
One of the things that we could do differently this time is like, you see, when we were collecting data on the ground, there are some of the expectations of the community. You see, when you are going on the ground, the community expect you to like give them something, or maybe in returns, give them some things. Like that is one of the challenges we were facing. And so I think by then we were not much deeper in the knowledge of research, how best we could answer them, because we were just beginners. But at least by now we will be able to at least give them whatever that at least can take off whatever that the expectation is. Because when you are doing research, actually you have to know how to defend yourself, especially when you are going to the community, and especially when you are dealing with the youth who are facing these challenges that actually you are going to study. Because based on them, when they see, especially that time when sometimes we would move with the Michelle around. So when they see a white lady like this, in the mindset of people not automatically become like there's something in return. So it's kind of hard, but all in all, we managed to do it well. Thank you.
I think that was a great addition. I think there's so many like little things like that we learned along the way that we would do differently, probably make space to talk about in advance rather than wait and see some of the skepticism, and frustration come up from the community naturally. And I think some of what Amolo's getting at is this idea that there's sort of a commodity around research, or a commodification of research in this setting where people are often given material things in return for participation. So that was something we sort of navigated on the fly and could have probably better prepared for. But in my mind, I think it was also this idea of expectations within the community, because there is a lot of talk in this context about the challenges that young people face, and so rarely action taken to remedy those challenges, right? So young people are constantly asked to talk about their precarity and to put that on display. And so, yet again, as researchers, we were asking questions about the challenges people were facing, but also trying to ask about how they overcame those challenges and the supports that came in various forms in their life. And yet, I think there was still an expectation that, we continuously tell people what our challenges are, but there is not a response from the Kenyan state, from the organizations, from the big UN agency that manages all the implementing organizations, and here from our teachers at a school. So the expectations that come up, and having to make sure we're keeping realistic expectations as well, because we weren't sure what we were going to have the power to change.
Thank you all so much for sharing. There are some additional questions that have come in, but I'm going to save them for later. And we want to make sure that everybody's got the time to share, but thank you all so much for your thoughts. And Abdurazik, Ali, and Amolo, hopefully you're able to stay around for the remainder of the call. I know we have a time difference. So again, thank you so much for working with us today. I am now going to turn it over to the Indigenous Education Youth Collective.
Awesome. Can everybody hear me? Okay, cool. Let me share my screen. Let's see if we can make that cooperate. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Perfect. Do you see a picture of a person editing a snow snake? Yes. Okay, cool. So we'll go ahead and get started. Ani Mbuju, Ozawa Wasimo, Ikwe, Nadijnakas, Migazi, and Dodem, Nindao. My name is Dr. Chloe Cannon. I'm the director of the Indigenous Education Youth Collective. And I'm really excited today to have these 3 youth researchers. This is one of our research teams. We have multiple research teams on this project. Talk about the work. So I'm not going to say too much, but I want to introduce myself. Jennifer and Jeremy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Chloe. Hi, everyone. Jeremy Wright Kim, really here just to support the great work that Jennifer and Chloe are doing and all of our young scholars are doing. So I'll take a back seat, but so happy to be here in support of, really inspired by all the great work they've done and continue to do. So hopefully you will too.
Jennifer, you want to chime in? No pressure either.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm having iPhone tech challenges. I am Jennifer Dale Burton, Mikanukakwe. That is my spirit name. It means snapping turtle woman in Anishinaabe. And I have been absolutely amazed by these children. And I will also gladly turn it over to them and let them give their presentation. Miigwech.
Yeah, miigwech. So I'm really excited today. So just a little bit of context. I'm going to have the youth researchers explain what the work is. But basically, this work developed a couple of years ago. I graduated from the University of Pennsylvania with my doctorate and came up to live in my tribal homeland. And I was actually not an academic at the time. I left academia because I wanted to do community work in my home community. And as an instructional coach at a K-12 school, Jennifer and I met at ceremony, and we realized where are the kids. And then we started to talk with community members and parents, and we realized that there was a lot of challenges facing our Native youth, both in culture and both in education, educational opportunities. And so this work is informed by our community and also work that I did in Philadelphia in my dissertation. But I called Jeremy, who was a friend of mine at Penn, who also studied college access and higher education. We both did, but from very different methodological frames. And we kind of teamed up. And so we have an interdisciplinary research team that kind of foregrounds it all. So we have Jeremy over at Michigan, myself now, I do teacher ed over at Lake Superior State, which is 2 minutes from my house. And then we have Jennifer who works in the tribe. And so to have all of this knowledge all together is amazing. But this work is deeply informed by our youth. And so this is their pilot research that they conducted this year. And I'm really, really proud of the work that they're about to share. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to them.
Vanessa Anquit Nindishnikas, Nimkin Nodum, Baoting Nindonjba. Hi, I'm Rowan. I'm in 7th grade and I'm 14.
Anin, Malin Nindishnikas, Moko Nindodem. Oh my gosh. Dafter Nindonjba. Hi, I'm Molly. I'm 12. I go to JK Boarding School and I am from Dafter.
Anin Piper Nindishnikas, Baoting Nindodam, Moko Nindodem. Hello, I'm Piper. I'm from the Sioux, as you all can tell. And I go to JKL and I'm in 8th grade.
Piper, this is, oh.
I know. The Indigenous Education Youth Collective is a group of Indigenous youth who come together to find different opportunities to learn about their culture in their community. We are able to share different personal experiences we have gone through as Indigenous youth, and we've gone to different cultural activities such as spring ceremony and snow snakes. And spring ceremony, we did a fast for Mother Earth, and it was really fun. I enjoyed it. We also give voice to the Indigenous youth in our community and spread awareness of different things, which we will talk about later in the presentation.
Our story and why we care. We all know lots about the culture. We all want to make people aware, like our culture. The culture is a big part of our lives. So I got my name, Vanessa Anquit, what I said in the introduction, when I was 3. So yeah. Our connection with the Anishinaabe culture. We have been involved with the culture most of our lives. Our families taught us. So my mom taught me a little bit of the language when I was little, and we all follow the grandfather teachings.
The grandfather teachings are love, Zagruin, respect, Niminadandamoin, bravery, Akadeewin, truth, Deboyawin, honesty, Goiwadzuwin, humility, Debadenzowin, and wisdom, Nibuakowin.
We all have different experiences, such as Rowan and Molly and I all have made ribbon skirts, and so are able to share those experiences when we talk in our groups. We do different crafts, and I'm able to speak a fair amount of the language, enough to earn high school credit. And we all have a passion for it, and so I'm just happy we're able to share it.
Our research questions for our pilot study was, what does culture and language access look like for Native teens in our community? What are pathways that can provide increased access to culture and language for Native teens in our community? And how do we connect important stakeholders and community partners to ensure sustained cultural access? Our data collection, we sent out 15 surveys and got back 6. We all interviewed 3 people and gathered the similarities in the information we were given.
For our interview findings, we found that not a lot are engaged in the culture or are able to get to groups, be it transportation, that's a big one, or just unawareness of it. And barely any are able to fully introduce themselves or like talk in more than one sentence. Such. Like, not a lot are able to do full conversations.
Survey findings. We noticed that a lot are unable to speak the language and also lack of culture groups.
We want more accessibility to the culture in our community and have to be able to have more opportunities to hear our teachings, the stories, the wisdom, just be able to share what we know with our community. And we can do that in groups, and we don't have many of those, and most don't go to them because they're not able to or know about them. We think that making posters or posts on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, just places where people are more, because not a lot of people know about them or know how to get to them or when they are or stuff like that.
Another thing is more engaging classes for language in school and out of school, because in a lot of Native teens' opinion, the Rosetta Stone is pretty boring, and I know a lot of kids do Duolingo, which teaches like different types of language like German, French, Gaelic, I don't know, other different types of languages around the world, and it's fun. Like, you have like these little achievements that you collect to advance to the next unit, and the Rosetta Stone is just the Rosetta Stone. I don't know. Yeah, it's boring. Oh, and also another thing for the cultural programs is transportation issues, because I live really far out of town, and so a lot of the oh my gosh, like classes and language programs that there are, I wouldn't be able to go to, because on top of all the things I have going on outside of school, it just does not fit in with my schedule for transportation, because it takes us a half an hour to get into town. And so that's a long day, especially when these programs run to like a couple hours at a time and stuff. And so it's hard with transportation.
We need to make teachings and accessibility online. So, I forgot. Molly, do you want to finish this?
Sure. So we need to make teachings and access available online, because for kids that have transportation issues or aren't able to go to programs that still want to learn the language, it would be easier for them to learn it online. And online, like kind of like the Duolingo, but like YouTube videos. And because I've tried looking up language on my phone before, and like it does not work. I don't know, it just does not pop up for whatever reason on my phone. But making teachings available on platforms like TikTok, YouTube, different social media platforms would help the kids that aren't able to go to the programs, and so on and so forth.
And that's it. Miigwech, miigwech, miigwech.
Thank you all so much. Jennifer, I'm going to try and add your video also. If I can, it may give me trouble. No pressure to turn your camera on or anything, but I again want to open the floor where we can receive a question or a comment from folks in the audience. Thank you, Molly, Piper, and Rowan for sharing with us.
I have a question that I haven't asked because I've been too busy. How do you all want to expand your research? Because this was a pilot, like you collected very little data, all of that. Like, how do you, based on the preliminary findings from the limited data set that you got, how do you all want to expand it?
Rowan, do you wanna, or Piper? Or
Like, how do you want to build on it?
I think it, instead of just surveying Native teens, we could survey adults and parents to see stuff, like to see what they have in their schedule, and for the issues and conflicts that we have with like the adults, like say transportation while they're at work, we could create like we could build on to that, and also serving littler kids to see if they're interested in the culture but aren't old enough to join any program. So then there could possibly be more programs suited for everyone and not just teens, adults, and stuff like that.
Miigwech?
I have a question as well. Molly, you mentioned that the Rosetta Stone is boring, and you want to see more fun in the learning process. And I think sometimes that we as adults have our ideas about what's fun, and that sometimes is different from what young people think is fun. So I'm just curious, when you think about your research and the things that you want to do, what is fun for you? Like, what things do you love to do as part of it?
Oh, okay. So a part of fun for me is sharing with other teens in our area and like exchanging like teachings and stuff. That's fun for me. And I feel like Duolingo is very fun, and it's like I compare the Rosetta Stone to Duolingo, and Duolingo is a lot more like colorful and a lot more catching to the eye. And oh yeah, I guess I can show you a little bit of what I'm talking about. But Duolingo, first of all, has like the cutest little characters. So when you go on Duolingo, it has like that, and you have these little oh, I gotta claim that. But you have, oh my gosh. No, stop. You have these little units within the larger unit, and you just click start, and it has you retrace your memory from previous lessons, and there's different courses that you can take different courses at one time. But in order to advance to the next unit, you have to fill in all of these units. And with the Rosetta Stone, you just kind of click and see where, yeah, my mom has it. And then this is the Rosetta Stone. So not very vibrant and not very colorful, and you just kind of learn about the Ojibwe alphabet. You just click it, and seeing if my camera will pick it up. And you just kind of go on about it. But I feel like if we have a Native program like this for Native courses, because I've checked on Duolingo and there's not a Native course, sad. But I feel like if we were to have a native course, a lot of Anishinaabe people would know their language a lot more because Duolingo is more catching to the eye and is a lot more fun than the Fluency Builder, Rosetta Stone.
I'm going to ask one more question and then close us out. Thank you, Molly, for showing us the tech and fighting through the tech challenges so we could see. A question from the audience is for the youth in particular, what inspires your activism and why do you want to share your culture with your peers? Rowan, I think you're talking and you're muted. Okay.
Why do you care about this topic so much? The language and culture stuff.
I mean, we have been in like, this is the culture has been part of our lives. It's like kind of like who we are, and it's really important to us to like share about it and teach other people and everything. I don't know what else, but yeah.
Adding on to Rowan's saying, I enjoy the culture because not a lot of my family knows culture. So for me to learn it and to actually like say like, oh yeah, I know how to do this, it's very like, I don't know the word, but like it feels nice to have someone come up to you and be like, oh, I'm just starting to learn language, can you help me with things? And so I personally want to learn it for the younger generations because my little brother Jace, he is trying he's just starting out on he's drumming and dancing and a little bit of firekeeping, and so I want to learn the language so when he starts wanting to learn it, I can help him with that.
And I was just going to say very quickly, these youth wanted to do this, you know, given, I mean, we know the UN has had indigenous languages as their like featured languages and trying to save them. Like we've seen all these global efforts, but these youth are like, where's our voices? And we want to talk about on the local level, right? Like we want to research, like what are the actual issues and how can we come up with solutions, right, to these issues? And youth have constantly said there's not enough culture, there's not enough language. And they've felt that there's been a big disconnect sometimes with schools or with tribal cultural programs. And so the youth really want to take a voice in understanding the data and figuring out solutions to make our community better. And so it's really good to have their voices and to start this pilot work. They learned, you know, Rowan and Molly, this is their first year in the collective, so kind of got their hands doing research for the first time and are really excited to keep learning more and, you know, going into 8th grade next year and continuing down this journey as Native researchers.
Well, thank you all so much, Rowan, Molly, especially for sharing Piper as well. And I'm so glad that we had your voices in the room with us. So thank you so much. I am now going to turn it over to the Digital Tech Workshop.
I would turn my camera on, but it's kind of hectic, so I apologize. But we are the Digital Tech Workshop. Digital Tech Workshop is a student-led experience, so every choice that happens within the space is based on what the students want. I'm Amari O'Neill. I'm an 11th grader. I'm 16 years old.
I'm Amirisa Johnson Riley. I'm also an 11th grader and I'm 16.
I'm Naomi Hightower. I'm a 9th grader and I'm 14.
I'm Shay Thomas. I'm an 11th grader and I'm 17.
So the digital tech started as a dissertation experiment to study youth literacies in October 2024. In this space, we get access to VR headsets, 3D printing, cameras, robotics, programming, coding, music production, and digital arts. And the principles that we go by and stand by in that space: freedom, agency, joy, innovation, integrity, respect, and Fajin, a word that another member kind of like introduced to us, which basically means the pleasure of being together.
So in digital tech, we get to experiment with different technology, debate, strengthen bonds, do homework, and express our creativity. And in digital tech, we've learned how to use technology to our advantage. As you can see in the middle photo, there are 3D printed Hello Kitties. Hello Kitty is getting really popular, especially around this time. And I don't know about y'all, but I love me some Hello Kitty. So making those, and seeing my friends make those, really cool. And then in the other pictures we see our students. I think they're making robots, which is something that I'm sure not a lot of us knew how to do before we got in digital tech or knew anything about.
Digital tech is special because it offers a welcoming environment, and it is also a student-controlled learning space and exploration, which basically means when you go there, you choose what you learn and you also choose what you do, and other people help you with that. You have freedom of speech and expression, so which is really important because at our school, a lot of people feel like their voices aren't heard or what they say isn't like really important. But in this space, it's extremely important, and we always discuss what you want to discuss. It offers an agency to choose our level of engagement, which basically means if you're tired, take a nap. If you're excited, like go do some boxing on a VR headset, and you get to choose it. It's not really enforced upon you. And everyone is also so helpful. When I first got there, I didn't know how to 3D print anything. And someone else was like, okay, listen, you got to do this, 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 and this. And they helped me out like all the way through the process, which I found very, of course, helpful, but also spectacular because in like normal everyday school, people don't usually just take out the time to specifically just help you when they're preoccupied with something else.
So some of our plans for the future, we want to continue learning from other marker spaces. We did have a meeting with Code Next. I wasn't able to go, but from what I heard from the people in our group that did go, they said it was very helpful with the stuff that they were doing inside of the digital tech space, and it helped them gather more information and find different ways to move around the space. Building partnerships and sharing resources and learning, that is something that we are trying to really work on because we believe that digital tech can become something really big that can help all of the students in our school and even students outside of our school. Acquiring more tech and tools. We only have a limited supply of technologies such as computers, VR headsets, keyboards, and a bunch of things like that. And they are used very heavily. So when one person can't have it, they have to like find something else to do. And then it would be nicer if everybody, like, once they had their mind put to something, they wouldn't have to wait for like somebody else to be done in order to use it. Fleshing out our project plans. So we are trying to expand on the amount of people that we have in the group. But in order to do that, we have to have a very set project on what we're doing and like how we're doing it, and that's how we're thinking of drawing people in. We are also going to try and work on a promo video that is student led to showcase like what we're offering so it attracts more students.
Thank you for listening. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you all so much. So there's something here. So one question for you all is, can you describe how adults behave in your makerspace and how that behavior encourages the freedom you enjoy?
Well, usually the adult in there is Parker Miles, and he's like always so supportive. Like, if you don't know how to, like, I remember one time I didn't know how to put the film in the camera, even though I had a camera just like it, and he was just like, he didn't call me stupid or anything. He was just like, listen, you need to do this, you need to do this. Like, he did it step by step. He was very assertive and helpful, as well as like if you're having a bad day, he would just listen to you. He'd be like, what's wrong? Come here, what's wrong? And it's just like, it's good energy, it's positive energy, especially when you're coming from like a class you don't like, or just like if you just have a bad day, it's very amazing.
To go off of Shay's point, Coach Buck is the only like adult there, but he's less of a authoritarian figure and more like a friend. It's not he's not really restrictive of what we can do. He lets us express ourselves how we see fit and kind of supports us. So yeah.
Thank you. There's another question. And they said it may have missed it, but were the resources for the makerspace already in place at your school? It sounds like you're trying to grow your community. Why do you think more youth have not yet gravitated towards the space?
I can answer the second question, but not the first question. I think people haven't gravitated towards the space because it was not promoted like that. Like, I remember getting a flyer for it, but I just threw the flyer away. And then like I joined halfway through it because it was just extremely fun. And I think a lot of people think it's like a regular after school program where it's like an extra class, and it isn't.
To jump off of what Faye said, yeah, I really agree with the fact that people might think that it's just another class, because a lot of our clubs at school that aren't the makerspace are like another class. So I'd assume that if they saw the flyer, which I didn't see the flyer, I learned about the club from a friend. So but if they saw the flyer, they more than likely assumed that it was just going to be another class.
Also, I have asked some of my classmates, like, why haven't you joined this after school curricular in specific? Their main issue is transportation, or like they just don't have time because we get a lot of homework, And it's just my grade, the transition from 8th to 9th grade was really hard for some of them because the workload became more and became really hard. And that was one of the main issues.
To speak to the first part of the question, the resources were just things that I was able to get access to and bring into the space. We had really lucky to have a lot of room in the school, especially in the basement floor where we are. So these rooms are vacant. But all the tech tools that we found were things that I was able to bring in.
I'm going to share another, and then we'll pivot to a collective conversation and some questions that everyone can dig into. But one of the comments says, I'm just celebrating the youth-driven joy and creativity here today. Do you all think this kind of space is possible in your engineering, science, and math classes, or only after school? What would have to change about your classrooms in order for this kind of learning to be possible in school?
I specifically feel like it's not possible, but mostly because when you're in digital tech, you're surrounded by people who you know want to see you thrive and who you don't have issues with. And it's like, all like, I'm not gonna say everybody has an issue with everybody in every class, but it's very prominent in a lot of 11th grade classes that no one likes each other. So for you to say, oh, well, we're going to create a non-judgmental space where everyone wants to see you thrive and everyone's going to be helpful is sort of impossible. And also, the workload we get, it would not create like a fun space. Like you would not have time to chat or talk. Like you literally do that. You do your work for 100 minutes, you leave, you go to the next class, and you do that over again the whole day.
I kind of agree with Shay said. I don't see it working out on like in school hours, simply because I feel like a lot of our teachers wouldn't really respect the whole freedom of expression thing. Especially speaking towards our math teacher. So I really think the program only works for after school hours. And also that also speaks to Coach Parker, because he really does like let us choose how we use the space and what we do to the space. I don't feel like our teachers will let us do that.
Well, thank you all so much, Amari, Naomi, Shay, Amaris, and Parker, for sharing with us. There are questions that I have floating in my head as well, but I'm going to hold off, and I want to turn to folks in the audience. I want to note too that in the comments, we have a note. It says, thank you. Your tech creativity is inspiring. Love that you introduced us to the notion of Faji. Also, Alinga has joined us from the Kakuma Youth Research Group. Hi, Alinga, and has noted in the chat, thinking about, I think Michelle introduced the idea of transportation being a thread, transportation issues being a thread through all of the presentations today. The idea of working to fix our communities ourselves as Alinga surfaces. So I'm going to hop in here as another comment. Thank you, Digital Tech Workshop. It sounds like you have fun and make some really cool things. I really appreciated how you talked about youth helping each other in addition to the support you receive from Parker. If folks have questions, comments, again, you can add them. I'm going to throw out a question to the youth researchers and teams. What is it like to hear other youth share their experiences in research? Are there things that you feel are similar in your experiences? Also, feel free to just unmute whenever you're ready to share.
I can see some similarities, but I think like the digital tech thing is kind of like a little bit isolated because with the other groups, I feel like since they're focused on like bigger things like open communities and languages, I think theirs is like their battle is like it's a harder battle that they're fighting. With us, it's just trying to get more people comfortable and like comfortable enough with expressing themselves. Cause like expression now, like in recent years, has been harder for kids because of, I guess, parents like older generations. So our like group is just focused on helping kids become more comfortable with themselves, I guess. Whereas others are just focused on like communities, languages, and just like we each focus on different problems, but they all revolve around youth. Is what I want to say.
So adding on to well, not adding on, but so for Jennifer's question, so the GT Makerspace is very different in a lot of ways. So we don't really use our 3D printer at all, but I know for my GT we use the Makerspace a lot, like putting like for my GT we create we have a problem and we need to solve it using original methods, and a part of that is we need to create a skit, and for a skit we need to create different like different backgrounds and stuff. So for our backgrounds we use a lot of like cardboards and stuff, and layered cardboards, and a lot of it's more like recyclable or whatever the word is. I don't know how to pronounce it, but we use a lot of different stuff, and we use our materials to do it, but we can't 3D print or anything.
I also just want to lift up what Shay has put in the chat. It says, I think it's very helpful to see what other people go through and how they've thrived with the circumstances they've been put under. I also like that everyone is bringing to light issues that they plan on fixing with these projects, whether it be local or global. I also wanted to just add, Amari, you talked about the sort of scale of what you're doing. And I think that's something I used to think about a lot, just in my journey through like being a student, being a teacher, being someone who cares about the world. And it's like, where do you make sometimes thinking about the size of your impact. And there's another quote I keep in my mind. It says, small is good, small is all. And that ultimately the large is a reflection of the small, and those things add up. And so I think you said, I want to say that you said, people were learning to be comfortable with themselves or feel good with themselves, or they're learning these different skills. And, I just want to uplift that's big too. And it is a big thing to live in the world and feel like you have a place where you can fully express yourself and be yourself. So I want to just uplift that as well. Small is good, small is all. I'm moving around through our questions here. I want to maybe throw this out to everyone who's here, but there were some things that came up earlier, like Amolo, I think, shared about Michelle, what it was like for you to be a white researcher moving through that space. And, for you, Parker, the group talked about the difference in your relationship with them as well, compared to being a teacher or some kind of authoritarian figure. And I want to ask the whole group, how are you thinking about like these spaces as places for agency and liberation, and how do you negotiate that together? What does it mean, for example, like we heard from the digital tech workshop, that people can be free and fully themselves and fully express themselves, but how do you think about agency and liberation, and moving towards and honoring those?
Yes, I can start. And Alinga and Abdurazik, I see you're both here. If you want to test out our audio, maybe you can join in. I think I love what you just shared, Mara, about small is good, small is all. I think it really connects to some of my own learning through the course of this work, and my own initial impressions of what we could and would do through YPAR, and expecting, despite knowing how challenging it would be, still expecting something structural to change, really expecting transformative learning for young people to result in concurrent structural shifts, and really having to reset that in myself. And I actually think the youth co-researchers were really good about helping me unlearn some of that, or really check some of those assumptions and think about how we really need to contextualize what transformation and agency and liberation look like. And I think this connects also to this idea of enforced dependency in the refugee camp where we did our work. And so just shifting young people's mindsets to feel like they are entitled to information on which their lives and livelihoods depend was incredibly transformative, right? Just like showing them that they were entitled to information that would help them with their future planning. And that didn't necessarily shift the ways that opportunities got distributed, or accessed on a systemic level, but it was transformative learning at an individual level. And so I think I needed to sort of move back and forth between agency and liberation on collective and systemic levels, and thinking about what transformative learning would look like for the young people involved in the work.
Yeah, I'll also share something, and then Jennifer, Molly, Rowan, if any of you want to hop in, something that maybe particularly our younger scholars may not see, but on this logistical back end of trying to honor what small and relational work looks like, and butting up against and how that can house like a liberatory experience, right? That we're based so much in the community and trying to push for what the community needs, what our students need. And then also thinking about how to sustain this type of endeavor. So we're presenting information kind of on our initial pilot year, for example. But the intention is that this collective goes on, right? And we're continuing to grow, but very intentionally. But then when we think about how to actually resource this type of initiative, foundations, other funders come to say, well, how do you scale this up, right? How do we put this in all these other places? But the idea being that's not actually what we're trying to do here, right? We're trying to do work with our community, for our community, and not to say that that's diametrically opposed to kind of expansion, but this just idea that bigger is what is necessary to push the needle. As you mentioned, like systemic change is something that we're contending with, right? On this back end of trying to intentionally support what we're doing. So I just kind of echo what everyone else is saying, and that we're trying to honor the sustainability of the initiative with its kind of ethos of small communal relational work.
I think ours is a little different, because I think our goal is just to make everyone not like, we just want more people to join our group. So we're working towards a goal, but it's not we're not trying to rush it, because I don't think you can rush comfortability. We just want more people to try to like I don't know, kind of like seek that freedom that our group kind of like tries to provide, and that the more people join, the more people like freely express themselves, the more people it brings to the group, and just it's like a little cycle, and that's like what we're trying to do and work towards.
Well, that what you just said reminds me of a practice that we do in every one of our sessions, most of our sessions. It's a thing called a talking circle. And when you're in a talking circle, each person takes a turn speaking about what they want and what they think is important. And it's the job of everyone else to listen carefully. Nobody else speaks, nobody overtalks, nobody interrupts. So everyone is really being listened to. And I think that's an Anishinaabe practice, talking circle. And I think that it's led to a lot more feelings of being a collective, being close, being friends, and led to more of a Anishinaabe outlook, so that we respect each other more, and we understand each other more.
I want to ask one more question. And I think I was struck by the idea that there's something that all of you are up to and working together towards that's not what schools do. It's not what your normal everyday looks like, but you've ultimately chosen to realize what you want them to look like. And so maybe if we could go around, and certainly whoever would like to share, but what do you think that your school could learn from the space that you have together, the work that you've done together, the relationships you have? It could be one big thing, but if you said, take it from us, here's how school should move.
I personally think our school would learn like the importance of the student voice if they paid attention to the digital tech program.
For our school, I feel like what they can learn from like our group is that like because our school is also like a tribal school, but they don't really do much with the language, and that's why people lack of it. So I feel like if we had a class, like class or two of like, because we already do, but that's only one class, and everyone will just forget it. And we need like more. So like maybe another class of like language, and it's an everyday thing, like a required. Like
So our school actually, Ron, our school isn't a a tribal school anymore. It's a public charter school with a culture class. And so though everyone at our school is like grateful for our culture class, they could extend more on the language and culture class, because I know our language teacher, Miss Hoffman, she does a great job at like teaching her class and stuff. But there should be more tribal classes for the kids that want to learn.
Ali or Alinga or Abdurazik, would you like to chime in? Is there anything that you're thinking schools could learn from the work that you did with each other?
I think in our school, we have learned
Oh, Alinga, I think your audio cut out for a minute. If you want to type in the chat again, I can read it out for you.
The schools.
Feel free.
Yes.
I don't know if you were able to hear me, Alinga, but do you want to
Yes,
try
I'm
again?
getting.
Say what you said again.
Yes, I'm saying. Yes, I'm saying that in our school, the school is divided in two ways. We have school A and school B. So that means that the school, some of the students will come in the morning and others will come afternoon because of the high population of the student in school. That's what I've learned from the school that I've learned. Are you getting me?
Yes. I wanted to make sure I wasn't cutting you off.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, I'm saying, I'm saying that our school is divided into two ways. And some students, they will arrive at early in the morning to study, and some they will arrive afternoon time. The reason is that because of the high population of the students in schools, that's why we have that challenge. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Okay.
I'll add to that. So, because Alinga, I'm wondering if part of what you're getting at is that schools can be divisive and that there are a lot of identity groups that don't get to interact with each other. And I think one thing all of you were reflecting on in, preparation for today was the friendship and unity that we formed across different identity groups in our research collective. And so I feel like there's something pedagogical there that Kakuma schools could learn around trusting young people to work together and to think in partnership with each other about their lives in Kakuma. So there's like a relational component there, and then also thinking about their lives right now in Kakuma. And I think this is a real tension in the camp because there's so much emphasis on your future. One day you'll be resettled. One day you'll be somewhere else that's not this camp. But helping young people to also see that they need to think about where they are now and to think together as they try to plan for their immediate or more shorter term futures.
Thank you both. I'm sorry to cut things off. We're at time. Of course, the time flies, but it has been so wonderful, and we are so grateful to have had you all here with us today. I'm going to turn it back over to Camille and hope to see you all at our lunch social in just a bit.
Oh, so wonderful. So as we anticipated, this has been such a special gathering. And on the behalf of all of us at the CREATE Center, I want to thank the Indigenous Education Youth Collective, the Kakuma Youth Research Group, and the Digital Tech Workshop. Once again, you've offered us such wisdom and inspiration this morning. Kakuma Youth Research Group, thank you for offering us a powerful glimpse into your experience collaborating in a space that you experienced as an open prison. As you shared, nevertheless, as you said, you love to learn research and build community despite a range of hardships like lacking food and transportation. It was great to hear you share how you built community rooted in friendship and cooperation and work to consider how to best approach community reciprocity, which I think is something that's so important for all of us to always be thinking through and doing better and better at. The Indigenous Education Youth Collective, we appreciate you sharing the grandfather principles so important to your community and research, such as love, respect, bravery, truth, humility, and wisdom. It was great to hear how you incorporated language diversity and art in your action-oriented research, and to learn more about your efforts to recommend how to make education more accessible through technology and increasing tribal language offerings. The Digital Tech Workshop, Thank you too for highlighting your creative efforts and shaping your student-controlled learning space and your talents working with technology too. We also benefited from you highlighting some of the current barriers in traditional schooling that can block students' creativity and critical learning, and emphasizing the importance of adult school-based educators learning from student voice, learning from youth voice. Your connections to freedom, joy, agency, innovation, integrity, and respect was also inspiring. And thank you again for introducing us to the notion of Faji. Mara very thoughtfully prompted us to appreciate how the seemingly small things can still be so very significant. And thank you, Mara, too, for moderating so wonderfully in the space. Connected to Mara's insight, Dr. Wright Kim reminded us that everyone featured today is doing small yet so important relational work with and for community. And so this has just been an absolute honor to share community with you all, to learn from you all. We at the Create Center will be in touch with all the teams soon, and we hope to stay connected with you beyond this event. For those maybe in the building, on campus at the university or really close by, yes, indeed, we'll be gathering shortly. In the school, we'll drop the information in the chat, the room number. People are starting to gather now at 11:45, but the program will start at 12:15. And we have an additional youth research team joining us from Lansing and some graduate student presenters. So again, I can't thank you all enough. I hope the teams also just enjoy their time with each other and with more teams and with all of us in this space as well. Folks are here from just all over Michigan and from Kenya, and it was just a pure delight. And we hope to have more opportunities to connect. So thank you all, and feel free, folks, to come off camera and just share and your voice and thanking and clapping and applauding our presenters today. So yay.
Thank you all.
Feel free to unmic if anyone would like to.
Okay. Well, as folks sign off, teams, Camille and I will be in touch soon. We appreciate you so much. And if there's anything we can do to support you, cheer you on, and just to, stay in the loop about the wonderful things that you're doing, please, we would love to stay connected. So you all have a wonderful day.
Yes, and good night and happy spring break. Yes. Thank you.
Toodaloo.
Bye, Ellie.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the call, and I'll see you downstairs.
All right.
Okay.